I heard the swish of my silk train against the church's marble floor and felt my heart flutter. This was supposed to be my final fitting before the wedding, a moment I'd dreamed about since Nico slid that diamond onto my finger 6 months ago. Instead, I was watching my future mother-in-law destroy everything with a smile on her face. "Rachel, darling, you look absolutely breathtaking," Kennedy said, circling me like a shark. Her manicured fingers adjusted my veil with practiced precision. "But before we finalize anything, we need to discuss the Hamilton family tradition." The seamstress excused herself with a knowing glance that made my stomach tighten. Kennedy's smile never reached her eyes as she pulled a document from her designer handbag. "What tradition?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Nico never mentioned anything." "That's because it's between the mother and the bride," Kennedy replied, her voice honeyed but firm. "Every Hamilton bride signs a prenuptial agreement with special provisions. Family protection, you understand." I looked at Nico, expecting him to jump in, to say something, anything. He stood by the stained glass window, sunlight fragmenting across his face in blues and reds. His silence cut deeper than Kennedy's words. "I don't understand," I said, taking the document. My hands trembled as I flipped through pages of legal jargon. "This says if we divorce, I get nothing, not even what I bring into the marriage." Kennedy's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "It's symbolic, Rachel. A demonstration of pure intentions. You're marrying my son for love, not money, correct?" The church suddenly felt too small, too hot. I'd spent my life dreaming of having a real family, something I never had growing up in foster care. The Hamiltons were supposed to be that family. Wealthy, yes, but I'd fallen for Nico's kindness, his promises that I'd never be alone again. "Nico!" My voice cracked. "Did you know about this?" He finally looked at me, conflict written across his face. "It's just paperwork, Rach. Everyone in the family does it." "Everyone who marries in," Kennedy corrected, her smile tightening. "The Hamilton legacy spans generations. We protect what's ours." I stepped off the platform, the dress suddenly feeling like a straitjacket. "I need to think about this." Kennedy's perfectly composed face hardened. "There's nothing to think about. The wedding is in 3 weeks. The agreement needs to be signed today." "Today?" I backed away. "You ambush me during my fitting and expect me to sign away my rights immediately?" "They're not rights if they were never yours to begin with," Kennedy snapped, mask slipping. "Nico, explain to your fiancé how things work in our family." Nico stepped forward, his face pained. "Rachel, please. It's not worth fighting over." Not worth fighting over. 5 words that revealed everything. "I need air," I said, gathering the massive skirt in my hands. The seamstress reappeared, alarmed as I headed for the dressing room. "Rachel!" Kennedy's voice sharpened. "Don't be dramatic. This is happening whether you like it or not." I spun around, the train wrapping around my ankles. "Or what?" Her smile returned, colder than before. "Or there will be no wedding. It's quite simple." 20 minutes later, I burst through the church doors in my street clothes, engagement ring clutched in my palm. The diamond cut into my skin as I marched down the steps, tears blurring my vision. "Rachel, wait!" Nico caught up to me in the parking lot. "You're overreacting. This is just how my family does things." I turned to face him, really seeing him for the first time. "Would you sign something that said you get nothing if we divorce? That everything you worked for belongs to me?" His hesitation was answer enough. "I thought I was joining your family," I said, voice breaking. "But I'm just another acquisition, aren't I? Something to be controlled." "That's not fair," he protested, running his hand through his hair. "My mother is difficult, but she means well. The tradition is important to her." "And I'm not?" I opened my palm, showing him the ring. 3 years together and you won't even stand up for me." His eyes darkened. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. My family will always come first," I finished for him. I pressed the ring into his hand. "I won't sign it, Nico." "Rachel, please." "Choose," I whispered, "me or the tradition." The silence stretched between us, filled with everything he wasn't saying. I turned away before he could see my tears fall. "It's more complicated than you know," he called after me. There's more to the tradition than just the prenup. I froze. What does that mean? It means you should talk to my sister, a woman's voice said from behind a nearby car. I turned to see a stranger watching us, her resemblance to Nico unmistakable despite her edgier style. She stepped forward, ignoring Nico's shocked expression. Mila, he gasped. What are you doing here? She smiled grimly at me, ignoring him completely. You must be Rachel. I think it's time we talked about what really happens to Hamilton brides. I sat in my car, knuckles white against the steering wheel, unable to process what had just happened. Mila, Nico's sister, the one he rarely mentioned, the family exile, had materialized like a ghost in the church parking lot. Before I could hear what she had to say, Kennedy had appeared, face contorted with rage. The screaming match that followed sent me fleeing to my car, mind reeling. The apartment felt hollow when I returned. Half-packed moving boxes mocked me from every corner, remnants of my plans to move into Nico's penthouse after the wedding. I kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto the couch, staring at the indentation on my palm where the ring had dug in. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Nico, Kennedy, Nico again. I silenced it and hurled it across the room. Some family, I whispered to the empty space. I'd spent my entire life craving what others took for granted. Parents who showed up, holiday dinners that didn't involve social workers, a place where I truly belonged. When Nico had introduced me to the Hamiltons with their sprawling estate and Sunday brunches, I thought I'd finally found my missing piece. What a joke. The buzzer rang, startling me from my thoughts. I dragged myself to the intercom. Rachel, it's Camilla. Let me in before I drop all this wine and ice cream. I buzzed her up, grateful for the one constant in my life. Camilla had been my roommate in college, the sister I never had. She took one look at my face and set her supplies on the counter. Oh, honey, she said, pulling me into a hug. What happened? The story poured out of me between sobs and gulps of Pinot Noir, the prenup ambush, Nico's betrayal, Kennedy's ultimatum, and Mila's cryptic warning. There's more to the tradition than just the prenup, I repeated, the words still echoing in my head. What the hell does that mean? Camilla's eyes narrowed. Nothing good. Rich families like that always have skeletons. She refilled my glass. What do you know about this Mila person? Almost nothing. Nico mentioned once that she and Kennedy had a falling out years ago. She left the family business to become an artist or something. He doesn't talk about her. And she just appeared out of nowhere at your dress fitting? I nodded, the coincidence suddenly striking me as odd. How did she even know I'd be there? Exactly. Camilla grabbed my laptop. Let's see what we can find on her. We spent the next hour digging through social media. Mila Hamilton existed only in fragments, an abandoned Instagram account from 3 years ago, a mention in an art gallery opening, nothing recent. It's like she's deliberately staying off the grid, Camilla muttered. My phone buzzed again from across the room. I retrieved it, expecting another message from Nico, but the number was unknown. This is Mila. We need to talk. Alone. Meet me tomorrow. 2 p.m. Sending location. How did she get my number? I showed Camilla the text. Probably from Nico's phone at some point. Camilla frowned. Are you going? I have to know what she meant. I don't like it. What if it's a trap? Kennedy could be using her to manipulate you. I laughed bitterly. You didn't see them together. Kennedy looked ready to commit murder when she saw Mila. A knock at the door silenced us both. I peered through the peephole and my heart lurched. Nico. Rachel, please, he called through the door. Just talk to me. Camilla raised an eyebrow. I shook my head and pressed my forehead against the door. Go away, Nico. I can explain everything if you'll just listen. His voice cracked. What Mila said, she doesn't understand. She left before... Before what? I demanded. Silence. That's what I thought, I said. You can't even say it out loud. I love you, he whispered. Isn't that enough? 3 months ago, it would have been. 3 months ago, I would have flung open the door and fallen into his arms. Now, his words rang hollow. No, I said firmly. It's not. I heard him slide down against the door, his voice closer to the floor when he spoke again. My mother is furious. She thinks you've been talking to Mila all along, that this whole scene was planned. Of course she does, I muttered. Heaven forbid her precious tradition be questioned. Rachel, please, if you'd just sign the agreement, get out, I snapped, suddenly furious. Get out or I'm calling building security. His footsteps eventually faded down the hallway. I turned to find Camilla watching me with a mixture of pride and concern. You okay? She asked. I wasn't, not even close. But something was hardening inside me, a resolve I hadn't felt before. I need to know what I'm up against, I said. Later that night, after Camilla left, I sat cross-legged on my bed, staring at the wedding invitation sample on my nightstand. A knock at my door startled me. It was almost midnight. Cautiously, I approached the door. Who is it? No answer. Just as I turned away, I noticed an envelope had been slipped under the door. Plain, unmarked. Inside was a yellowed newspaper clipping dated 15 years ago. The headline made my blood run cold. Hamilton bride vanishes 3 days before wedding. Below it, a handwritten note. The tradition has claimed others. Be careful who you trust. I didn't sleep. The newspaper clipping lay on my coffee table like a bomb while I paced, made coffee I didn't drink, and watched the sun rise through my blinds. The woman in the article, Vanessa, 24, engaged to Kennedy's brother-in-law, had disappeared 3 days before her wedding. The case was never solved. By 7 a.m., I'd made my decision. I showered, dressed in jeans and a sweater that made me feel armored, and grabbed my keys. I needed answers before meeting Mila, and I knew exactly where to start. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I arrived. Harlan sat in the back corner, exactly as described on his website, salt and pepper beard, worn leather jacket, eyes that missed nothing. I'd found him after an hour of searching for private investigators, drawn to the testimonials from women who'd uncovered painful truths with his help. Rachel, he said, standing as I approached. No handshake offered, just a nod toward the chair across from him. You sounded urgent on the phone. I slid the newspaper clipping across the table. I need to know everything about this case. He studied it, expression unchanged. This is 15 years old, and connected to the family I almost married into. I leaned forward. There's something they're hiding, some tradition that goes beyond a predatory prenup. I need to know what happened to Vanessa. Harlan took a sip of his coffee. What makes you think I can find what the police couldn't? Because you specialize in wealthy families burying their secrets. I met his gaze. And because you've got personal history with the Hamiltons. That got a reaction, the slightest tightening around his eyes. Your website doesn't mention it, but I did some digging. You worked security for them 20 years ago before becoming a PI. You know how they operate. He set down his cup. Impressive homework. Why not go to the police with your suspicions? With what? A prenup? And a cryptic warning? I shook my head. I need evidence. And if you don't like what you find? The question hit harder than expected. Part of me still hoped there was an explanation, that Nico wasn't complicit in whatever darkness lurked in his family. I need the truth, I said finally, whatever it is. Harlan studied me for a long moment, then nodded. My fee is... I know your fee. I'll pay it. Half up front, he said, taking out his phone. I'll need everything you have on the Hamiltons. Photos, texts, access to social media, names of staff, especially long-term employees. I spent the next hour emptying my life with Nico onto Harlan's tablet. Photos from family gatherings, names of the housekeeper and gardener who'd always been kind to me, everything I could remember about Kennedy's friends and business associates. What about Mila? Harlan asked. You mentioned she reached out. I'm meeting her at 2. She says she knows about the tradition. He frowned. I don't like that. It could be a setup. I thought of that, but you should have seen Kennedy's face when she appeared. There's bad blood there, real bad blood. Still, public place, keep your phone on, and text me the address. He gathered his things. I'll start digging today. And Rachel, watch yourself. People with money like theirs don't just protect it, they weaponize it. The cafe Mila chose was busy enough to feel safe but quiet enough for conversation. I spotted her immediately, dark hair cut in a sharp bob, Nico's eyes in a face unmarked by his perpetual need to please. She wore paint-splattered jeans and a leather jacket that had seen better days. "You came," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "Someone slipped a newspaper article under my door last night, about a missing Hamilton bride." I watched her face carefully. "Was that you?" She shook her head. "No, but I'm not surprised. There are people who've been waiting for someone like you, someone who might actually listen." "I'm listening." Mila glanced around before leaning forward. "The tradition isn't just a prenup. It's about control, complete control. The Hamilton women, my mother, my aunts, they believe marriage is about molding the perfect wife. The prenup is just the beginning." My stomach tightened. What does that mean? "It means once you're married, you belong to them. Your appearance, your schedule, who you talk to, where you go, all dictated by Kennedy. The family business always comes first. Always." "That's archaic, but hardly criminal," I said, though my voice wavered. "It gets worse." Mila's fingers tightened around her cup. "There's a ceremony before the wedding. They call it the cleansing. The bride is isolated for 3 days, subjected to—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "I've never gone through it, but I've seen what it does. Women go in with spirit and come out broken, compliant." The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "And Nico? He knows about this?" Pain flashed across her face. "My brother is a good person trapped in a toxic system. He's been conditioned his whole life to accept the family's ways. To him, it's normal." "That's not an excuse," I said, anger rising. "No, it's not." Mila reached into her bag and pulled out a small photo album. "These are pictures of Hamilton brides, before and after." I flipped through pages of women's faces, bright-eyed and smiling in engagement photos, then vacant-eyed and stiff at their weddings. The transformation was subtle, but unmistakable. "And Vanessa?" I asked quietly. "The woman who disappeared?" Mila's eyes darkened. She tried to run. My phone buzzed, a text from Nico. "We need to talk. I'm outside your apartment. Please come home." I showed Mila the message. "He's at my place. Don't go," she said immediately. "Not alone." "I won't." I stood up, suddenly needing air. "I need time to process this." "Rachel." Mila caught my wrist. "Be careful. My mother will do anything to protect the tradition. Anything." As I walked to my car, another text came through, this one from Harlan. "Found something. Meet me ASAP." Attached was a photo that made my heart stop. Nico, standing with Kennedy, and a stern-looking older man I'd never seen before, all three examining what looked like surveillance photos. Of me. My hands shook so badly I had to pull over. The surveillance photos were recent. Me entering my apartment building, meeting Camilla for lunch last week, even talking to Harlan this morning. The timestamp showed they were taken just hours ago. I called Harlan immediately. "Where did you get these?" I demanded when he answered. "From a contact at the security company the Hamiltons use," he said. "They've had you under surveillance for at least 2 weeks. Professional job. Why? What are they looking for?" "Control," Harlan said simply. "They're monitoring your movements, your contacts, especially now that you've connected with Mila." I glanced around the street, suddenly feeling exposed in my parked car. "I need to see you, now." "Not at your apartment, they're watching it. Meet me at the public library downtown, 3rd floor reference section, 30 minutes. I took a circuitous route, checking my rearview mirror obsessively for any cars that might be following me. The library felt safe, open, public, with multiple exits. I found Harlan among the stacks, pretending to browse legal reference books. "I've been digging into Vanessa's disappearance," he said without preamble. "The official investigation was shut down prematurely. The detective assigned to the case was suddenly transferred, and his replacement closed it within weeks." "Let me guess. The Hamiltons have friends in the police department." "They have friends everywhere." Harlan handed me a folder. "But they couldn't silence everyone. Vanessa's sister tried to keep the investigation alive. She gave interviews claiming Vanessa had called her, terrified, the night before she disappeared." said something about a cleansing ritual that was going to happen. My blood ran cold. That's what Mila mentioned, a ceremony called the cleansing. The sister died in a car accident 6 months later. Single vehicle crash, no witnesses. I sank into a nearby chair. You think they killed her? I think powerful families protect themselves by any means necessary. Harlan sat across from me. There's more. I found 3 other cases of women connected to the Hamiltons who either disappeared or died under questionable circumstances, all within weeks of their weddings. I opened the folder with trembling fingers. Police reports, newspaper clippings, photographs, all documenting a pattern spanning decades. This is, I couldn't find the words, criminal, Harlan finished, but nearly impossible to prove without someone on the inside willing to talk. Mila might, I said. She seems to know a lot about the tradition. Be careful with her. We don't know her motives yet. I looked up sharply. You think she's working with them? You saw how Kennedy reacted to her. Family feuds can be complicated and convenient. Harlan leaned forward. What exactly did she tell you about this cleansing ceremony? I repeated Mila's explanation, watching his expression darken. Sounds like ritualized psychological breaking, he said. Isolation, sleep deprivation, emotional manipulation, classic techniques to make someone compliant. My phone buzzed with another text from Nico. Please call me. I'm worried about you. We need to talk. He won't stop, I muttered. Use that, Harlan suggested. We need information. Meet him somewhere public, see what he'll tell you. You want me to talk to him? After seeing these? I gestured to the surveillance photos. I want you to get answers. Play along just enough to learn more. The idea made my stomach turn, but he was right. I texted Nico back. Coffee shop on Main, 4 p.m., just to talk. Nico looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. For a moment, seeing him hunched over his coffee cup, I felt a pang of the love I'd carried for 3 years. Then I remembered the surveillance photos. Thank you for meeting me, he said as I sat down. I've been going crazy worrying about you. Have you? I kept my voice neutral. Or have you been keeping tabs on me some other way? He flinched. What does that mean? It means I know you've been having me followed. I leaned forward. Why, Nico? What are you looking for? That's not... He stopped, running a hand through his hair. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. He glanced around the coffee shop, lowering his voice. My mother is concerned about outside influences. She thinks someone is trying to turn you against the family. Someone like Mila? His jaw tightened. My sister doesn't understand our family. She left years ago, rejected everything we stand for. And what exactly do you stand for? I asked. Controlling women? Breaking them down until they're obedient? That's not what the tradition is about, he insisted, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Then tell me what it's about. Tell me about the cleansing. Nico went pale. Who told you about that? Does it matter? I know, Nico. I know about the women who disappeared, who died. I know what happens before Hamilton weddings. It's not what you think, he said desperately. It's a spiritual preparation, a way to strengthen the marriage bond. By isolating and terrorizing the bride? I kept my voice low, but intense. By watching her every move? It's for protection. Whose protection? Not mine. Nico reached for my hand. I pulled away. Rachel, please, I love you. We can work through this. The tradition is important to my family, but we can modify it, make it less intense. For a moment, I almost believed him. The man I'd loved was still in there somewhere, trapped behind generations of toxic conditioning. If you love me, I said carefully, prove it. Tell me exactly what happens during the cleansing, every detail. His expression crumbled. I can't. I've never been allowed to witness it. Only the women of the family participate. But you know it hurts people. You know it's wrong. It's tradition, he whispered, as if that explained everything. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. Goodbye, Nico. Wait! He grabbed my wrist. There's a family gathering next weekend, a pre-wedding ceremony. My mother expects you there. I'm not marrying you. Just come. he pleaded. See for yourself what the family is really about. If you still want to leave after that, I won't stop you. As I walked away, my phone buzzed with a text from Harlan. Hamilton estate security increased yesterday. Something's happening there soon. Be careful. The pieces clicked together. The gathering Nico mentioned wasn't just any ceremony. It was the cleansing, and they were preparing for me. You're not seriously considering going to that estate, Camilla said, pacing my living room. After everything you've learned? I sat cross-legged on my couch, surrounded by printouts of Harlan's research. I need to see it for myself, get evidence. Evidence of what? That they're psychopaths? You already know that. She stopped pacing to face me. Rachel, these people had you under surveillance. They may have killed women who tried to escape their sick tradition. Which is exactly why I need proof. I held up one of the police reports. Look at this pattern. If I can document what happens at this ceremony, maybe I can stop it. Not just for me, but for whoever comes next. Camilla sat beside me, her voice softening. I understand wanting justice, but this is dangerous. These people have money, connections. They've gotten away with this for generations. My phone buzzed with a text from Mila. Heard you're considering the gathering. Need to talk ASAP. See? Even Mila thinks it's a bad idea, Camilla said, reading over my shoulder. I texted back. My apartment? 1 hour? I'm not going in blind, I assured Camilla. I'll have a plan. Harlan's helping me. She gave me a searching look. You trust him that much? You barely know him. The question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on the Hamiltons that I hadn't questioned Harlan's motives. He has his own reasons for helping, I said carefully. He worked for them years ago. Something happened. Something he's told you about? Not exactly. Camilla squeezed my hand. Just be careful who you trust right now. That includes Mila. And Harlan. Mila arrived looking agitated, checking over her shoulder as she entered my apartment. I think I was followed, she said. Kennedy's getting paranoid. She knows I've been talking to you. How would she know that? The same way she knows everything. Money in the right pockets. Mila paced the room, reminding me of Camilla earlier. You can't go to that gathering. It's a trap. I figured as much, I said, but it's also an opportunity. For what? To become another missing bride? She stopped pacing. The cleansing isn't just psychological torture, Rachel. It's a test. If you break the right way, you're in. If you resist, what happens if you resist? Mila's eyes darkened. Best case? They find a way to discredit you, spread rumors, destroy your reputation, make sure no one believes anything you say about them. Worst case? She gestured to the files spread across my coffee table. You've seen the pattern. Then I need to expose them before they can do that to me or anyone else. I pulled out my phone. I've been recording everything, my conversations with Nico, with you. I'm gathering evidence. That won't be enough. You need something concrete. Documents, witnesses willing to testify. Like you? I asked pointedly. Mila went still. I can't be your witness, Rachel. I never went through the cleansing. I left before my mother could force me into a strategic marriage. But you know about it. You've seen what it does to women. Knowing isn't the same as proving. She sat down heavily. And my testimony would be dismissed as the bitter ramblings of the family outcast. I studied her face, remembering Camilla's warning about trust. Why are you helping me, Mila? Really? Pain flashed across her features. Because I couldn't help Vanessa. The admission hung in the air between us. You knew her, I said softly. Mila nodded, eyes fixed on her hands. We were friends. I warned her about the family, about the cleansing. She tried to leave, but her voice broke. I should have done more. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? She looked up, eyes glistening. I knew what they were capable of, but I was too scared to stand against them openly. I just ran away, saved myself. The raw guilt in her voice felt genuine. I reached for her hand. Help me now, I said. Help me stop them. Harlan's office was in a converted warehouse downtown, sparse, functional, with filing cabinets lining the walls and a desk cluttered with documents. He looked up as I entered. You're still planning to go to the gathering, he said. Not a question. Yes, but I need your help setting it up right. I sat across from him. I need to be wired, with you monitoring nearby. He shook his head. Too risky. They'll be checking for devices. Then what do you suggest? Harlan leaned back in his chair. I have a contact who can get you a specialized recording device. Looks like a normal necklace, virtually undetectable. And you'll be nearby? As close as I can get without being spotted. He hesitated. There's something you should know before we go further. The serious tone in his voice made me tense. What? He pulled a file from his desk drawer. I haven't been entirely forthcoming about my history with the Hamiltons. I figured as much. I wasn't just security for them. He slid a photo across the desk, a younger version of himself in a suit, standing beside Kennedy. I was engaged to Kennedy's sister, Elaine. I stared at the photo, then at him. You were going to be part of the family? Until I discovered what happened to the women who married in, what the cleansing really was. His jaw tightened. I tried to get Elaine out. She wouldn't leave. Said I didn't understand the importance of tradition. What happened? They destroyed me. Fabricated evidence that I'd embezzled from the family company. I lost my job, my reputation, nearly went to prison. His eyes hardened. I've spent 20 years building a case against them, but they're careful, protected. I absorbed this revelation, understanding now why he'd agreed to help me so readily. So this isn't just about helping me, I said. It's about your vendetta. Does that change anything? He asked bluntly. I thought about Mila's guilt over Vanessa, about the women in those police reports, about what might happen to future Hamilton brides if no one stopped this cycle. No, I said finally, but I need to know you won't let your personal feelings endanger this operation. We need evidence, not revenge. Harlan nodded slowly. Agreed. As I left his office, my phone rang. Nico. The gathering has been moved up, he said without preamble. It's tomorrow night. Mother insists you attend. My heart raced. That's very sudden. Please, Rachel, just come, for me. I closed my eyes, steadying my voice. I'll be there. The trap was being set, but this time, I wouldn't be the prey. The Hamilton estate loomed against the darkening sky, its manicured grounds and stone facade more fortress than home. I sat in my car at the end of the long driveway, fingers absently touching the pendant around my neck, the recording device Harlan had provided, disguised as a simple silver locket. Testing, I whispered, knowing he was parked somewhere nearby, listening. I'm going in. My phone buzzed with his response. Signal clear. Remember the exit strategy. First sign of danger, use the code word, and I'm coming in. The code word was Phoenix. Simple, unlikely to come up in normal conversation. I took a deep breath, checked my appearance one last time in the rearview mirror, and drove toward the house. A valet took my keys at the circular driveway. Through the windows, I could see people moving inside. Women in cocktail dresses, men in suits. This wasn't the intimate family gathering Nico had described. There had to be at least 50 people here. Kennedy opened the door before I could knock, her smile tight and practiced. Rachel, darling, we weren't sure you'd come. I said I would. I kept my voice neutral, accepting her air kiss beside my cheek. Nico will be so pleased. He's been absolutely distraught. She linked her arm through mine, guiding me inside. Everyone's eager to meet you properly. The future Mrs. Hamilton. The title made my skin crawl, but I forced a smile. Quite a crowd for a family gathering. The Hamiltons have many branches, dear, and friends who are practically family. Her grip tightened slightly. I've taken the liberty of selecting your outfit for the ceremony. It's tradition. I thought the ceremony wasn't until later this week. Kennedy's laugh tinkled like ice in a glass. Plans change. We've moved everything up. The cleansing begins tonight. My heart hammered against my ribs. Tonight. Not just a gathering, the actual ceremony. I wasn't prepared for this. Tonight? I kept my voice steady with effort. That's rather sudden. When something is meant to be, why wait? She steered me toward a group of older women watching us with predatory interest. Ladies, our guest of honor has arrived. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions and veiled comments. Kennedy's friends, other matriarchs of wealthy families, circled me like sharks, asking pointed questions about my background, my career intentions, my willingness to embrace tradition. I played my part, smiling and deflecting, all while scanning the room for Nico. He was conspicuously absent. Looking for someone? A man's voice startled me. I turned to find an older gentleman watching me with Kennedy's eyes. You must be Kennedy's father, I said, recognizing him from photos. Indeed. He sipped his scotch. And you're the woman who's causing such a stir in our family. I wasn't aware I was causing a stir. His smile didn't reach his eyes. A bride who questions tradition always does, though most are wise enough to keep their questions private. The threat in his words was unmistakable. Before I could respond, Kennedy reappeared at my side. Father, you're monopolizing our guest. She turned to me. It's time to prepare you for the ceremony. The women are gathering upstairs. This was happening too fast. I needed more time, more information before being isolated with them. I was hoping to see Nico first, I said. Men aren't part of this portion of the evening, Kennedy replied smoothly. Tradition dictates the bride be prepared by the women of the family. Prepared how exactly? I asked, my voice sharper than intended. Several nearby conversations paused. Kennedy's smile tightened. All will be explained upstairs, dear. Now come along. She took my elbow in a grip that brooked no argument. As she led me toward the grand staircase, I caught sight of a familiar face across the room. Mila, dressed in an elegant black dress that made her nearly unrecognizable. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, her expression unreadable. What was she doing here? We'd agreed she would stay away, monitor communications with Harlan. Something was wrong. Kennedy noticed my distraction. Ah, I see you've spotted my wayward daughter. Surprising, isn't it? After all these years, she's finally decided to rejoin the family for an important occasion. You invited her? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. Family is family, despite past disagreements. Kennedy's smile turned predatory. Blood always tells in the end. My mind raced. Had Mila betrayed me, or was she here to help? I had no way of knowing, and no time to find out as Kennedy led me up the stairs toward a set of double doors at the end of the hallway. The cleansing room, she announced with reverent pride. Every Hamilton bride has passed through these doors for 7 generations. She pushed them open to reveal a large windowless room where a dozen women stood in a semicircle. In the center sat a single chair beneath a harsh spotlight. The walls were lined with mirrors, reflecting the scene in infinite regression. Welcome to your rebirth, Rachel, Kennedy said. Tonight, you shed your old self and become worthy of the Hamilton name. The doors closed behind us with a heavy thud. I glanced around, noting with rising panic that there was no obvious exit except the way we'd come in, now blocked by 2 stern-faced older women. Where's Nico? I demanded, my voice echoing in the silent room. Preparing in his own way, Kennedy replied. Men and women have separate roles in this tradition. Now please change into this. She held out a simple white shift dress. I'm not changing until someone explains exactly what this cleansing involves. The women exchanged glances. One of them, a silver-haired woman with Kennedy's sharp features, stepped forward. The resistant ones are always the most satisfying to break, she said softly. By dawn, you'll be begging to comply. In that moment, I realized the terrible truth. I wasn't here to gather evidence. I was already trapped in the ceremony itself. Phoenix, I whispered into my pendant. Phoenix. Nothing happened. No Harlan bursting through the door, no rescue. The pendant around my neck suddenly felt like dead weight. Something wrong, dear? Kennedy asked, noticing my whisper. I straightened my spine. I'm not participating in this. I'm afraid that's not an option. She nodded to the women flanking me. They moved closer, hemming me in. The cleansing happens with or without your cooperation. My mind raced. If Harlan wasn't responding, something had gone wrong. I was on my own. What exactly are you going to do to me? I demanded, playing for time. The silver-haired woman, Kennedy's mother, I assumed, circled me slowly. First, we strip away your defenses, then your resistance. Finally, your misguided notions of independence. She touched my cheek with cold fingers. By morning, you'll understand your place in this family. And if I don't? Kennedy's smile chilled me. Everyone breaks eventually. Some just require stronger methods. A door at the far end of the room opened, and Mila slipped in. Our eyes met briefly before she took her place in the circle, face unreadable. How unexpected, Kennedy said, eyeing her daughter. Returning for the cleansing after all these years. I wouldn't miss this one, Mila replied, her voice flat. The betrayal stung worse than I'd imagined. I'd trusted her, believed her story about Vanessa, her guilt, her desire to help. Let's begin, Kennedy announced. Rachel, remove your jewelry and change into the dress. I clutched my pendant. No. Two women stepped forward, reaching for me. I backed away. Don't touch me, I warned. This defiance is tedious, Kennedy sighed. Mila, since you've decided to participate, make yourself useful. Help our bride prepare. Mila approached slowly, eyes downcast. When she reached me, she leaned in as if to take my necklace. Trust me, she whispered, so softly I barely heard it. Play along until I signal. Before I could process her words, the doors burst open. Nico stood there, breathing hard. Mother, stop this, he demanded. Kennedy turned, surprise quickly masked by irritation. Nico, you know men aren't permitted during the cleansing. I don't care about permission. He entered the room, eyes finding mine. Rachel, I'm sorry. I didn't know they were starting tonight. I just found out. You knew what they were planning to do, I said, voice shaking with anger. You've always known. Guilt flashed across his face. I didn't understand before, but I do now. He turned to his mother. This ends tonight. All of it. Kennedy laughed, the sound brittle. Don't be dramatic. Every Hamilton bride undergoes the cleansing. It's tradition. A tradition of psychological torture, I said loudly, of breaking women until they're compliant, of making them disappear if they resist. The room went silent. Several of the younger women exchanged uneasy glances. Careful, Rachel, Kennedy warned. Accusations without proof are slander. I have proof. I touched my pendant. I've been recording everything. Kennedy's composure slipped for the first time. Search her, she ordered. Before anyone could move, Mila stepped between us. That won't be necessary. She pulled out her phone. I've been recording too, for years. Murmurs rippled through the room. Kennedy's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful little... I have recordings of you discussing Vanessa, Mila continued, voice steady, planning how to handle her when she threatened to expose the cleansing, arranging her disappearance. The color drained from Kennedy's face. You're lying. Am I? Mila held up her phone. Shall I play it for everyone, for the police? You wouldn't dare. You're a Hamilton. That stopped meaning anything to me the night Vanessa disappeared. Mila's voice cracked. I should have spoken up then. I won't make that mistake again. For a moment, no one moved. Then Kennedy lunged for Mila's phone. I reacted instinctively, stepping between them. Kennedy's nails raked my cheek as Nico pulled his mother back. Enough, he shouted. Mother, this is over. You choose her over family, Kennedy hissed. Over tradition? I choose what's right, he said quietly. The doors burst open again. Harlan stood there, with two uniformed police officers. Sorry for the delay, he said to me. Had to convince these gentlemen of the urgency. One of the officers stepped forward. We received reports of potential kidnapping and assault. Is everyone all right here? No, I said firmly. We're not. And we have evidence of crimes far worse than assault. Kennedy's mother stepped forward, her aristocratic composure intact. Officers? This is a private family gathering. There's been a misunderstanding. Play the recording, I told Mila. She hesitated, looking around the room at the women who had once been her family. For a terrible moment, I thought she would back down. Then she pressed play. Kennedy's voice filled the room. If she won't comply with the cleansing, she can't be allowed to leave. Not alive. Not with what she knows. Another voice, her mother's. The mountain property would be suitable. Accidents happen there all the time. Kennedy lunged for the phone again, but the officers intercepted her. Kennedy Hamilton, you need to come with us, one said, taking her arm. This is absurd. Do you know who I am? She snarled. Yes, ma'am, that's why we brought backup. More officers entered the room. The women of the Hamilton family watched in stunned silence as Kennedy was handcuffed and led away, still protesting her innocence, her importance, her power. In the chaos that followed, Nico found me. Rachel, I held up my hand. Not now. I walked to Mila, who stood alone, watching her mother being taken away. Thank you, I said simply. She nodded, eyes glistening. I should have done it years ago. As we walked out of the cleansing room together, I felt the weight of generations of silenced women lifting. The tradition was broken, and in its place, something new could begin. The Hamilton estate felt different in daylight, less imposing, more hollow. Yellow police tape crossed the entrance to the cleansing room as officers moved through the house, collecting evidence. I sat in the sunroom, watching them work, the events of the night before still reverberating through me. Coffee? Harlan appeared beside me, offering a steaming mug. Thanks. I took it, wincing as the movement pulled at the bandage on my cheek where Kennedy's nails had left their mark. Any updates? They're searching the mountain property Mila's recording mentioned. If Vanessa's remains are there... He didn't need to finish the sentence. I nodded, sipping the bitter coffee. Where's Mila? Giving her statement? Again. Harlan sat across from me. She's been thorough. Seems she's been gathering evidence for years, waiting for the right moment. Or the right ally, I murmured. A detective approached us, notebook in hand. Ms. Foster, we have a few more questions about the ceremony. I spent the next hour recounting details. The white dress, the circle of women, the mirrors designed to disorient. The detective's face remained professional, but I caught flickers of horror as the full picture emerged. And you believe this has happened to how many women? He asked. At least one per generation, I said. Possibly more. The successful cleansings resulted in compliant wives. The failures... I trailed off, thinking of Vanessa. We'll need statements from other Hamilton brides, he said, making notes. Good luck with that, Harlan interjected. Fear and shame are powerful silencers. So is justice, I countered, surprising myself with my conviction. Once they see Kennedy facing consequences, others might come forward. The detective nodded and left us. Through the window, I watched Nico sitting alone on a garden bench, head in his hands. Have you spoken to him? Harlan asked, following my gaze. Not yet. I set down my mug. I'm not sure what to say. The truth might be a good start. Nico looked up as I approached, his eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. Hey, I said, sitting beside him. Hey. He stared at the bandage on my cheek. I'm sorry, for all of it. I know. We sat in silence, the weight of everything between us. When did you know? I finally asked. About what really happened during the cleansing? He exhaled slowly. I suspected for years. The way the brides changed afterward, like something inside them had been extinguished. But I told myself it was just nerves, adjustment to family life. He looked at me. Until Mila came to me last week. She came to you? This was news to me. After you two met, she showed me some of her evidence, told me what really happened to Vanessa. His voice cracked. I didn't want to believe it. My own mother. But you did believe it, I said. You came to the ceremony last night. Too late. Bitterness edged his words. I should have stopped it years ago. Should have questioned why my sister really left. Should have protected you from the beginning. I studied his face, the face I'd loved, trusted, planned a future with. I still saw the good man I'd fallen for. But now I also saw his weakness, his complicity through silence. What happens now? He asked quietly. Kennedy will face charges, serious ones, if they find Vanessa's remains. I meant with us. I'd been asking myself the same question all night. I don't know, Nico. Too much has happened. He nodded, accepting this. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it, and I'll testify against my mother, about everything I knew or should have known. It wasn't enough to rebuild what we'd lost, but it was something. I found Mila in the library, staring at a family portrait on the wall. Quite the family, I said, joining her. Former family. She turned to me. The detective says they've found something at the mountain property. They're not confirming it's Vanessa yet, but... Her voice trembled. I took her hand. You did it. You got justice for her. We did. She squeezed my hand. I couldn't have done it alone. I tried for years, but I was too afraid to make the final move. Why me? I asked. Why risk reaching out? She smiled sadly. Because you reminded me of myself before I ran away. Strong, but vulnerable to their manipulation. When I saw your engagement announcement, I knew I had to try. A thought struck me. The newspaper clipping under my door, that was you? She nodded. I needed you to start asking questions. I'm sorry for the secrecy, but I had to be careful. Kennedy still had people watching me. And last night, I thought you'd betrayed me when you showed up. I needed to be inside, to make sure the recording captured everything. She looked down. I was terrified it wouldn't work. But it did, I said firmly. It's over. The media descended within hours, reporters clamoring for statements about the prominent Hamilton family's dark secret. I declined all interviews, despite Harlan's suggestion that publicity would help the case. This isn't about exposure, I told him as we watched the news vans from the kitchen window. It's about ending the cycle. And what about you? He asked. What's next for Rachel Foster? I hadn't thought beyond surviving the night, beyond exposing the truth. Now, possibilities stretched before me, a life unbound by the Hamilton legacy, undefined by their traditions. I don't know yet, I admitted, but for the first time, it feels like my choice. Later, I stood alone on the estate's vast lawn, watching the sunset paint the mansion in golden light. My phone buzzed with a text from Camilla. Coming to get you. You're staying with me tonight. No arguments. I smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the fading sun. Family wasn't about blood or traditions or names. It was about the people who stood beside you in darkness, who helped you find your voice when others tried to silence it. As I walked away from the Hamilton estate for the final time, I didn't look back. Some traditions weren't worth preserving, and some cycles were meant to be broken.